I saw that you're working sort of at a marketing firm in a BDM capacity. Then you've done some things on your own, done a kitchen job, some kitchen thing during
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
yeah. Well,
what's your story? It sounds
we
interesting.
can go back as far as you want, but before the pandemic, I didn't sell my business for 16 million pounds, but I was offered 16 million pounds for it. It was a hospitality business, and I'd franchised that. And the pandemic came along and ended up wiping it out. I was holding out for like 25 mil,
Mm.
and it got wiped out in the pandemic. It's now back up to, it was turning over 25 million, but now it's resurrecting itself at about 3.5 million. So I've been through the whole should have sold it, didn't sell it, and all that kind of stuff. But my actual background goes way back till I was about, I don't know, I was 23. So I never liked working for anyone. Got meningitis and then woke up in this hospital bed. And I was like, that's it, I'm quitting my job. And I remember saying to my mum that I'm done, I'm quitting my job and starting my own business. And she was like, you can't do that, you can't do that. Because nobody had ever started a business in our family. So I started my first business when I was 23. I ended up growing that and franchising it. I've sold 28 different businesses in one form or another. I've started multiple,
Oh,
crashed plenty, lost others. I don't even know where they are. Some of them are down the back of a sofa, I think, or something like that. My biggest, really, and I was semi-retired before the pandemic, was my hospitality business. So anyway, we lost that. It was more like the mental health. I've never been that kind of person that's like mental health orientated or anything like that. But I really experienced some dark and interesting times, really, which
mhm.
changed things. Then off the back of that, I was approached by somebody who knows Stelios of EasyJet, and they were like, "Look, we're thinking about setting up a marketing franchise business. You've got loads of franchising experience. You got loads of sales and marketing experience." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's get involved in that." And when I got involved in that, I spent a lot of time researching it as a marketplace for SMEs for the majority of businesses, and found out some things that I think we all know as business owners, that most marketing companies can't deliver what we need them to deliver. And so we end up with this horrific situations of marketing companies desperately scrambling around because it's highly competitive. In the UK, there's like one marketing company for every 86 businesses, which is insane. But now with like AI and arbitrage of software, so people, building off the back of Salesforce and whatever else, you've got a place where just about everybody that comes out of university or anybody that's online is some kind of marketeer. And there's a
Mm.
big problem in the world of business that actually what business owners need is like experience. But technology tends to have a by proxy association with youth. And so people go to technology and end up in this market where people aren't experienced, and you get probably the worst of all worlds. So anyway, we started this marketing franchise with Stelios. And then in doing that, I found out that small businesses, well, all businesses hate marketing companies effectively. They have lots of problems with them. The lifetime value of a marketing company isn't enough of a client for a marketing company isn't enough for the marketing company to make any money. I mean, it is
I
cash.
could have told you that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Stelios.
of course, right? It is cash and resource,
Yeah.
but it's not that. If it, like you can bootstrap some, you can do some smart stuff, and you can bootstrap, and you can re-educate business owners to make money without any budget for marketing, right? If you know what you're doing.
I always say like marketing is like the sort of catch-all compensation for that inability to actually concentrate and do sales properly.
You're bang on, right? And that's one of the default positions. People become obsessed with wanting new leads, new business, and actually the answer is in retaining clients and increasing their value.
Mm.
I reckon you can get into the top 5% in the world now if you just do what you say you're going to do. Like I
Yeah, it's
think it's that
pretty simple stuff.
that
I mean, that's what Bezos says about building a brand. He's like, it's there's no shortcuts. You just make a promise and you deliver on the promise and you do it over and over again and you build your brand. It's that
yeah,
simple.
it is that
um,
simple.
but we're sold all these other lies like, hey, I think what's alluring and what you're sort of touching on there is, especially in the SME market, is that they're sold it's inherently uncertain the outcomes from a lot of these investments. So what's really attractive to these people, these owners of businesses, is that hey, there's this person, this guru, this system, this brand, software, agency, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It takes different forms, but there's this shortcut to this outcome that you really want, and they sort of get allured by it and they buy into it, and it fails, and they do it over and over and over again, and they get stuck in this sort of like sales, pitch loop, basically,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's quite attractive. And like I said, like It's sort of proportional to their lack of dedication investment into proper sales or BDM work. So,
I think you're right. I think people are looking for unicorns, but I always say like you
yeah,
want to buy mules. You really want to invest your money in mules. They're like stubborn, they stink a bit, but they will actually get your stuff up the mountain.
mm.
Whereas unicorns, they don't exist. Like there's a big difference.
It's like the El
So
Dorado quest that never
yeah,
ends.
exactly right. Yeah. And I think also, and this is a truth of business, you've just hit it on the nail on the head there. People are sold a myth, right? They're sold this deception that somehow they just come up with a good idea, they go to market, everybody loves it, and they start making loads of money. And that statistically almost never happens. Like
Yeah,
almost never.
but you
It's,
can't
it,
say that because it's kind of a bit negative. So as a vendor, you got to sell the positive side of things, right? Not the reality.
yeah, but
Otherwise,
you
you won't
say
get
it to
any
yourself
sales.
as well. You say it to everyone, and then it's a
Yeah,
problem in the business community because I don't think it is negative. So one of the things that, and when we talk in a little while about funnels and about creating systems that can uh, generate leads and business while you sleep, it's important to know that like everything is only it's part of a system, right, in your business. And that system, and as much as people go, oh, you can get out your business and you can create passive income and all this kind of nonsense. Let me just say, it's like nonsense. That's not a reality. You can definitely like be the strategic lead and work on and orientate yourself around the fun stuff and automate the low skill, high volume stuff. You can definitely do that, and that's what you should be doing. But somehow, all of us need to take a reality pill and say, like, yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
Bezos is a good example where even Amazon, that was crashing and burning for years. It was a bookstore that, but by normal conventional measures, you just close that business down. You
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about because I had a recent experience. Backtrack a bit. AI is coming out, right? Macro context, it's lowering the barriers to entry for content creation and
Yeah,
publication of that content, right? Which is not really the valuable thing anyway. It's more the
yeah,
human eyeballs and effect you have on humans that
yeah,
is the most skillful thing and hard to get. I have this theory that is sort of eventuating, especially in B2B, where a lot of that sort of search and social bread and butter sales CRM mixed with inbound content, website sort of content, white papery kind of written
yeah,
content especially, is basically the value is going to zero, and therefore it's having less and less effect on customers during the sales process. Therefore, it's probably better to pivot towards things that are harder to fake,
hmm
things like this.
yeah,
Human, even this is getting sort of AGI'd, right, with Notebook
yeah, yeah,
LLM from Google and stuff like that. But I think what the flight is that there's a sort of lack of trust in a lot of that content that can be produced en masse for free almost, and therefore there's a pivot back to, if you're a smart B2B marketer, back to things that can't be faked, like personal interactions, physical events, webinar kind of events that are live, things like that, where you can't fake them, and therefore the value creation, the barriers to entry are a bit higher. Therefore, it's a bit of a richer branding experience, and can affect the sales process a lot more than some of these other things. Would you agree to that, or not?
100%. I think AI is okay. So everything's a pyramid, right? Everything's a pyramid, and AI is the same. So at the top level, cutting edge of AI. So let's say, like, if you went on 11 Labs and optimized everything they can do with like voice cloning or whatever else, you can get some pretty sophisticated stuff. There's no doubt about it. But if you're just using ChatGPT and whacking in a prompt because you want somebody to bang out a LinkedIn article, it's going to look and feel already, even in these early stages of AI, like a commoditized piece of content that's not really adding any massive value. You've got the zig, which is where all the AI low level stuff's going, and then you've got the zag. And the zag is that bit where, like you've just said, the bit that makes you feel uncomfortable. So what might that be? Standing on a stage talking to people. You can't replace that at the moment. It's not doable. It's not doable. Picking up the phone and having formulated, yes, but real life direct conversations with people, these kind of skills that actually like old tele call centers
This
and
is
all that
old
kind of
BDM kind of work, right? It's like, have we come full circle? I feel like we
yeah.
have.
Well, if you're good at it,
Yep.
you're almost priceless in the modern world because it's so powerful to be. And I know some of our mutual friends, teach about how to do sales and how to shortcut really to the real position. I think we've had that many. This is my opinion on it. There's that many gurus that have read a book and watched or learned somebody else, but haven't had seat time and gone through it.
Mm.
Whereas I was selling ice creams at 16 years of age in an arena, and all that experience right up till now, knocking doors, making cold calling, cleansing data, all that, that gives you an insight that you can only get with seat time. But the young gurus on Instagram, don't get me wrong, I know some of them are making hundreds of millions of dollars, but it's short lived and it's not effective for the client because they don't understand the nuances and the pain. And also, a lot of marketers have never had another business. So I've
Yeah.
had businesses in multiple sectors and different areas of the economy. And I also know the psychology of a business. Business owners are people, right? You know, they're not this magical entity that's just brilliant at solving problems. They're having crises at home. Their dog's died. The bills haven't been paid. The boilers broke. You know, they've got a life. They didn't sleep last night.
Sometimes,
You know,
sometimes the most attractive thing I found is like not talking about a business opportunity. It's just to like be a friend or just like do something fun,
Jay,
that breaks them
honestly,
outside of that seriousness. Like,
you've got it completely right. And I think a lot of the time, and some of the skill, like, I've done NLP training, I've done clinical hypnotherapy training, I've done, I'm an existentialist philosopher by trade. That's the only
I saw
qualification I've
that.
really got. Yeah. So I actually have a degree in philosophy. But the thing to understand is that everybody's in pain. Everyone's on a path. Everyone's on a journey. Nobody's got it nailed. No one. I've got 8 billionaires in my phone. None of them have got it nailed, right? I've never met one single person that's got it nailed. But the best people and the people you want to work with are the ones that can tell you that quickly.
Yeah.
The ones that are going, everything's amazing, everything's great. I'm like, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
But when you get to meet someone, and this is where sales, and you've got this right with sales. If you can sell for the negative, it's okay. Tell a business owner that there's a downside to what you're doing and what the product is. Tell them that there's like a risk if they don't get it right, or tell them that, yeah, it'll work, but you've got to do the things I'm telling you to do.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not going to get the results. And that carries a lot of weight. Whereas with AI, this whole polished, get it perfect, get it right, it's inhumane and it's not effective. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're right. The AI stuff is commoditized in its current form. And the best thing is to go back to them old BDM roles
Yep.
and count them. And so, even in the automation, should be your outstanding point. That should be your outstanding element for sure.
I mean, I call these higher friction or like unscalable, high cost initiatives or channels or mediums or whatever you want to call it, right? So we've gone through that digital era where it's the opposite. It's like you need to scale at the lowest sort of marginal cost that you can. Therefore, that is like the growth, Silicon Valley sort of growth method. I've been there. Like I've worked in Silicon
Yeah,
Valley
yeah, yeah.
tech companies. That was the whole mantra, right? And the issue that we come up against is that, hey, if I'm selling something that's scalable and that's somewhat predictable, has some sort of digital analytics that gives some sort of veil of unit economics that CFOs can kind of get their head around, that's way
Mhm.
more attractive, even if it's kind of flawed, than selling some, hey, let's do a series of webinars and some events and have a really good BDM following up on these kind of things. And then if we do that over a period of time, we'll do it really well, which you and I both know works if you execute it properly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
selling that sort of uncertainty at high cost and maybe non-linear effect is like a lot less attractive to decision makers than maybe the former description that I just made around these other mediums.
I kind of disagree with that a little bit.
Okay,
And,
good.
and the reason I disagree with that is that if you know how to communicate, so like let's say for example, now just this is a simple tip for anyone if they're going to shoot a VSL or something like that, right? When you're shooting a VSL and people go, "Oh, I need a script," or whatever, yeah, you might need a script,
VSL,
but
just so people know.
a video sales letter. So if you're doing a video sales letter, so one of the things that like I'll go to a client, okay, here's the content that we're going to ask you to shoot, and they'll be like, I've never been on camera before, I don't know,
Yes, happens all the time.
yeah, right. And I go, you do know you live in the world and everyone sees you all the time, right? So you have to show them they're experienced in this already. They're just not recognizing the patterns, right? You go to a coffee shop, right? Yeah, you talk to someone. Yeah, that's it. That's all I need you to do. Just be able to talk to someone, right? And in fact, it's better for me if you talk how you talk to your mates than if you try and put on this shouting at an Instagram reel type thing, because that's just not going to work. So I give you some content and I say, okay, this is what we believe best explains your offer. And we've taken your voice and tone and tried to align it. Now, what I want you to do is to record this to audio, and this is just a tip for anyone, record it to audio and then listen to it yourself for a week, 3 or 4 times a day, and listen to yourself with that script and get that embedded in your head. Because what I don't want, and people go, teleprompters, no,
No, scripts are
scripts,
the worst. Yeah.
forget it. like, don't get me wrong, great actors are a good example, right? Great actors, you watch them, you don't think they're working a script or using a script because they've learnt it and they've assimilated what's going on in that, right? So your job as a communicator in business is to assimilate deeply so much knowledge and understanding that actually you can communicate and distill it in one sentence with effect, right? And then the other thing about doing that is once you've assimilated that, your energy can be directed where it should be directed to the person instead of some of it being drained by you trying to recollect or consider or think whatever it is you're meant to be communicating. So you do have to do some work. You can think, I've met so many clients where they like turn up they'll book a studio, they'll pay all this money, they'll get all the tech
tens of
books,
thousands sometimes.
they'll get a new suit.
And they're
all
terrible on camera, makeup people, everything. And it's just like, what are you doing?
not bothered. They've not bothered to rehearse or practice their communication and their delivery. So learning your craft and learning your skills and learning your content is really important. But listening back to yourself is super important as well. And even filming yourself, don't worry about it. That's how you look, right? That is literally how you look. So people go, oh, I sound terrible. I look like that. Yeah, well, that's how you sound and that's how you look. You actually sound different to other people than you do to yourself. But I think people need to get business owners. Your biggest advantage, especially as a small business owner, is that you can do things that tech can't if you rehearse and practice. You can tell your story like nobody else can tell. You can explain your product like nobody else can explain it. But you need to understand that there's a big part in this, and this is a big part of funnels, video sales letters, webinars, anything like that. And it's called energy, right? Everything in the world, universe, is energy. This isn't some like ethereal, like positive thinking type position I'm taking here. It's just a scientific fact. It's all energy, and energy wants energy. So if you're the kind of person who's communicating to your audience, but you're like, hey, everyone, I'm just like here to do, you're taking energy from them, right? But if you're able to give energy, guess what? They want it. So as part of the sales process, you can consider less about trying to like be technically explaining or delivering what it is, but in order to get that connection, and people buy off people that they know, like, and trust. And in order to get that connection quickly, forget about rapport, forget about mirroring, forget about all those kind of techniques, but have a really good, strong, intentional energy to your audience. And that will pay dividends. So when you talk about scaling, and if you do that right as well, people will share that content. They will utilize it for them. So it will start marketing itself because it contains energy. And that is really important.
I've made that mistake before. You know,
what's that?
Especially when you do speeches, like you use it early before you know this fact to be more true than literally the stuff you're talking about. You worry so much about getting things right around what you're trying to communicate. It's all about, I need to be technically correct. I need to have some really good quotes. It's all about quality of the actual prose. Whereas, like, they're gonna maybe come away with 3 basic points maximum from like any speech you're going to do. And then the rest should just be sort of like reinforcement and the vibe, you know what I mean? Which sounds like super dumb, but it's kind of true. They buy into you before they buy into what you're saying. And it doesn't matter if, you know, what you're saying and how good it is. If they don't like it, they're not going to remember anything. So, I mean, I was just reading this quote by Daniel Kahneman that I've got in this presentation that's coming up. And he's like, facts don't form beliefs. All your belief systems are not based on facts. Therefore, like, don't get worried about facts and try to convince people with facts. It doesn't matter. You know, they have to like you first and then they believe you. So yeah, I think the same kind of goes with sales. Like, I think people get caught up in the technicalities of the product offering. And I think the longer you work inside the company, the more you talk about that instead of just like being a nice person that they want to trust, go out for lunch with. So if they're not going to go out for lunch or get a drink with you, like, they're not going to buy from you. Or maybe they will, but it's not going to be a great relationship. So,
I mean, the same. A friend of mine who's in, forgive me if he knows what I'm talking about, but data and AI, and he's wrote some pieces, and I read it and I think, look, I know what you're saying, but it's so dull and disconnected. I've told him that, by the way. But I'm like, you know, just tell it like a human. Tell it as a real person. And by the way, just say it rough into your phone straight away and just bang it out there. That's better content than trying to get this polished AI, crafted, no errors, no mistakes, no humanity in it.
Yeah.
Because it's not believable anymore. It's not believable.
It reminds me of this, everyone's watching and they want to sort of do some speaking thing or speech or webinar or whatever. There's this really good clip, I think the South Park creators, you know, Troy and what's the other guy's name?
This could be anything South Park.
Yeah, whoever the 2 creators of South Park, I forget. It's very early in the morning. There's this clip on YouTube. I think they're visiting NYC, like New York University, sorry. They were invited back to the university or something like that for a speech around how to create storytelling or something like that.
Okay.
It's kind of an old clip and it's a bit rough, but they talk about these beats and they go, but therefore, instead of we talk about this and that and that and that and that, which is what how most people talk. And they're like, all you have to do is like have your beats or your key speaking points that you want to communicate, and then you put a bit of controversy in there. But did you know that this is a bit uncertain or this is something unusual? Therefore, blah 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 blah. And it's just the best clip for going, okay, that's how I construct a speech. And I've done
Yeah.
that and I've tested it just even in writing, and it's like so much better storytelling than anything else. So yeah, look that one up. But I love it. So like you're saying, come across natural. I think people try to overscript verbatim what they want to say instead of just having some key talking points and then hitting on those and delivering on those, similar to what we're doing right now. Like I've got some
Yeah.
talking points of stuff that I want to talk to you about, but I'm not going off a script or like asking verbatim, because the natural conversation kind of goes in circles and flows and it's very, very messy. So
You've got to look at humans, right? So technology has advanced a lot, obviously, and it's advancing faster and faster than ever. But our evolution, if you believe in evolution, but the actual the way humans conduct themselves has not evolved that much. We still look for storytellers. We still seek those kind of emotional hooks in order to guide us in our lives. We're not as rational as we might like to think. We're not as logical and as reasonable as we might like to think. I mean, look around, right?
yep.
If I look around here now, I've bought, I don't know, there's thousands of pounds worth of stuff sitting around me now that's just junk. But I went out and exchanged my time and life and money for that, and now it's junk.
Yeah, is that
That's
is
not
that
rational.
the Chuck Norris exercise machine I see in the background that you bought?
Yeah, the bull worker, the bull worker. The shopping channels, they still work. They still make
They
loads of
do.
money, right? And you think to yourself, wow, that's incredible. But those people that are presenting, that's another thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Those people that are presenting, they're using vast amounts of energy, right?
Mm.
Enthusiasm about what is essentially like, in some cases, junk. But that ability to communicate, that's the bit that hooks you in. It's not even the
Yeah.
product. It's their ability to tell the story and give you that enthusiasm about it. You think, yeah, they seem like they're having a good time with it. They seem like they're getting
Yeah.
a good deal out of it. I'm in.
Everyone looks
I'll
like
buy
they're
one.
high on something, like in the videos, like, oh,
Probably are, yeah. You
it's
probably
like,
are.
dude, it's a blender with a heating element that makes soup.
But
Like, get over it. Hey, so,
Oh,
it's a long intro, but what I wanted to
yes.
cover is webinars. Okay, story. I know you're recommended by Benjamin Dennehy.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who he is or want to look him up, literally my most popular episode on what is sales,
Yeah.
which is
Amazing.
funny because a lot of marketers follow this. But I think what he says is really key. So and it complements what you're saying as well, obviously. But in that, I had a recent experience like setting up events. Before I talk about something, I like to do it myself. I know it's quite unusual, but it's a really good learning experience. And then I go, oh, this event thing can't be too hard. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually pretty hard.
Yeah.
If you don't have the
Yeah.
infrastructure, if you don't have the people, it's kind of messy and unscalable. And I was like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought. Even trying to get an organization not doing an event for the first time. And I'm like, okay, what's the easiest stepping stone into this high quality kind of interactions with current customers and potential customers? So I thought, okay, webinar, that's an easy
Yeah.
thing because we can do that virtually. There's less logistics around venue, time and place. People can kind of just come in and then go out and work it that way. So what I found is that that was more involved for the first time than I thought. And it's not just the software side, logistics, digital logistics side of things. It was just the infrastructure that goes into it. And then, I had to, like you said, you had to find someone who wanted to speak on camera. No one wanted to speak on camera. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ended up having to chaperone the internal person and work with them and sort of coach them around how to talk because they were kind of an engineer, right? Which, as you know, they're quite
Technical
technically,
people.
yeah, technical people, but very, very knowledgeable. But like, again, you got to present this information in an entertaining way. So there's a bit of like content creation and coaching around there and practice, etc. Before we did it, it was successful. Had 50 people, lawyers stick around for over 45 minutes, which
Yeah, good.
for them is high billable time and hours.
Mhm.
So the time is precious, and yeah, and then we're sort of using that to then do another one, and sort of then branch out into physical events. So long story short, what I want to get your case on was I know a lot of people do webinars or online events, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
but selling off the back of them is like maybe the next thing. Like anyone can talk about something online and do a LinkedIn live and get some people, but like how are you going to convert those people? I think there's a different skill set.
So I've ended up presenting clients 5 day challenges, 3 day challenges, 1 day, so whatever it might be. And it's not my sector. So everything from real estate through to Forex trading, I've worked with clients and then either assisted as an MC or just taken the event on in itself. And the thing is, because of the skills that I've learned over the years, I know that it's less about my technical knowledge, and I also know that people can't take that in. You said before they take on 3 points. You'll be lucky if they take that. What they really want, they want what they believe is the solution to their problem, right? So they only need to feel like they've got someone that can do that for them.
Kind of
So
like
the biggest
confirmation
part,
bias, right?
that's all it
Yeah.
is. That is what you need to do, right? So you need to know who they are and what they want. Forget about what they need for now. That's something else, right? But you have to think about what they want. And they normally want some kind of silver bullet to solve their major problem, right? We've already talked about that. It doesn't exist. But let's, for the purposes of like presentations and webinars, let's go with that. So you need to know exactly what the problem is and try and articulate that in one line, and then articulate that you have a solution, but it has to be disruptive. It can't be just simple saying, I've got a hole in my bucket. Oh, I've got a cork. That doesn't work. It's like, I've got a hole in my bucket, but I have the number one implement in the world that's going to game change your leakage
And it's
forever.
not a
Kind of.
cork.
And it's not a cork. Yeah, it's not a cork because you've seen them before, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
right.
commoditization. So if it's the same thing, you end up commoditizing like, oh, I've seen this. I don't care about this.
Yeah.
It's not about. And then you go for the whole story where you've got to like empathize with them, and you've got to show them that you understand and demonstrate that you understand. But I think this is the bit that people get wrong. They try and show this polished version of what it is, and it has to be made clear the downsides, the negatives, the risk. And people are like, I don't want to no tell them. I say to people, sell through the negative all the time. Make it clear to them, look, you're probably not going to do what I'm telling you. You're not going to do it. And if that is the case, don't buy anything from me because that is a waste of money. But there's nothing wrong with that because you're not only you covering yourself as well and making it clear that there is work to be done and things like, but it will help fine tune them and then move towards a decision of saying, okay, there's work to be done. I've got to commit. I've got to implement. I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And you're more likely to get that conversion. I also personally am a big price up front. This is what I'm selling kind of guy. So if I was doing it, if I could have my own way of doing it, and in fact, I'll invite, and you can send a link out to everyone that's watching when I do one myself.
Okay.
But I will say, look, I've got this solution. It's 25 grand, and people are like, 25 grand. What is it? They're like, it's 25 grand. But obviously, in order for me to get that 25 grand off you, and by the way, I want more of you, I've got to demonstrate to you that I'm not only going to solve your problem, but I'm going to go above and beyond that and give you a massive return on it. So it's a no-brainer. So if you think that price ticket is high, wait until, this is not exactly what I'd say, but wait until I show you over the next 6 hours how that's going to become insignificant when you take what I'm offering for that 25 grand and put it into your business. It really is that simple. And I think don't be afraid. The old, this is what I was saying before as well. People that have never done this and read a book or watch somebody else do it, they'll go, oh, they talk loads. And then at the last minute, they pitch you hard for like 20 minutes. Buy now, limited. You don't have to do that. You can like passive pitch throughout the whole thing from the off. You can casually go about your business, and actually, back to the energy thing, if it aligns with the way you feel you're able to deliver energy and communication, do that, because that will surpass any gimmick or technique or trying to learn, well, I have to do this, and this. There are things that work better than others, but the best thing is to say, what's the problem? I've got a solution. Niche it up so that it's not commoditized. Explain to them the benefit. This is real old school marketing, isn't it? But it works. Explain to them the benefits, explain to them the consequences and the downsides. Tell them the price. If you've got a guarantee, give them a guarantee. Give them the pathway of how it's going to work. So what would happen next is you'd pay your $25,000. You'd go through this Q&A process and map it out for them. And we will deliver it to you within 60 days. And in 60 days, you'll have an asset that you own that you can then utilize to bring in leads forever into your business And by the way, we'll also show you and train you how to edit it and make a copy of it. So if you do want to use it for another product or service in your business, you've now got not only the asset we built for you and we've trained you and put that in place for you, but you can do that as many times as you want.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think that does that sound too simple?
No, I mean it's just the basic direct response,
Isn't it?
method of sales. Yeah, basic
Yeah,
stuff, but it works
yeah,
every time.
it works every time. Yeah.
Okay, so I think what people get wrong then is that they create all this content, they want to communicate, and it's just like a blur of, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Here's the topic. Listen to me because I'm an expert at this. That's what I see. I would say amateurs do, who
Yeah.
then don't sell off the back of it because the listeners are there just going, "Wow, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. There's a lot of information, and I don't know anything now. I don't want to admit that I don't know as much as I probably should.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else now." That's kind of what
Yeah.
happens, I find.
People say to me like, "Oh, what books would you recommend?" Or whatever. I mean, obviously, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie,
Yep,
but
yep.
it's probably the best sales book you can ever read.
Yeah.
And but it's that same thing. You can read How to Win Friends and Influence People because that was good, and then throw it behind you, or you can read How to Win Friends and Influence People and then go to the coffee shop and test it out and have fun with it. There's no risk there. You're not losing a sale, right? You need to have an understanding of how you can empathize, sympathize, relate to them, and talk honestly and open about it. Like I just said to you at the start, I didn't sell my business for £16 million. That was on the table for me, 11 million cash, 5 million retained, and I didn't do that, and I lost that business. Now, that's a true story, and there's lots more to it than that. But when I say that to people who are in business, it opens doors for me because they're
Yeah.
like, shit.
They empathize
But
with them being in a loss sort of situation because
yeah,
it's kind of imprinted in their memory.
exactly. Well, you're a business owner, right? If you're a
Yeah.
business owner, you've got
It's
a lot
like
of
every
start.
second day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like some
exactly.
disaster.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So,
You
but
get
the thing,
desensitized to it.
well, you'd hope you do, but you don't do you? You're still lying there at
Yeah.
night thinking, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe people are like this.
Yeah.
But you can, as a business owner, sell en masse using vehicles like this.
Mm.
And the way to do it, okay, you hear terms like be authentic and all that kinds of, it's not necessarily about that. It's about understanding your audience and being able to communicate to them with good energy that will naturally bring them to a position of trust. They're going to end up liking you because you're interested in them, because you're showing empathy, and you're going to have a higher potential of selling whatever it is at the end. Then, and this is the bit people get wrong, blows my mind. They put together a webinar, 5-day challenge, all this, and then they can't onboard people. They hit
Don't follow up.
bottlenecks. They haven't worked that. I mean, that is, we'll come to that in a minute, right?
Mm.
But that whole follow up, understanding that it's like 16 points of contact on average to get a conversion in any sector.
Mm.
Like, and yet people will do one or two and get rejected and then just
Yeah.
leave it. It's like, that's why you're not making sales.
If I can backtrack a bit, the first principles of putting on any sort of sales event, right? Whether it's a webinar or physical. So you said, if I have to summarize here, you said get the topic right, understand the customer first and their pain points,
Yeah.
right? And then don't talk too much detail about the solution, but emphasize with them, give them the pros and the cons, give them an offer, offer the solution over a period of
Yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah.
and then sort of try to close them and follow up. But let's just put this in a specific context. So we're doing webinars for the first time. Sometimes people go, hey, they've got some ideas internally from different people inside the organization. Hey, we should cover this topic, or we should really talk about XYZ, right? So you're saying put a filter on that and make sure that that is the case, and then really simplify the offering in terms of, how you communicate that as like a really simple sort of sentence. Like, is the headline really important, or the title of the webinar?
Headline's super important.
Okay.
The top of your funnel or wherever you're sending your traffic to, that headline and the video, I'd only pretend that's all you've got to get them on the webinar. I'd only pretend. I mean, you've got all this long form copy, and don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, we work with some great people, but that is where most of it's going to happen there. Now, in order to do that, you need to go back a bit because you need to, in the business, go, what's the point of this? Like, why am I doing this? Like, literally, why am I doing this? So the only reason you should be in business, really, and people will go crazy with this, is to try and get out of your business. And I don't just mean get out through automation. I mean sell it. That's the only reason you should be in your business, to grow it, to sell it. Now, if you get your business ready to sell, it's probably in the best shape it's ever been in its life. Anyway, if you really work at that, so you'll probably want to keep it. That's the irony of getting a business ready to sell. That when it's ready to sell, it's good to keep, but at least you have a choice. So What's your bigger goal in your business? Let's say you're $1 million business and you just started, you're doing $1 million, and you go, I want to get to 10 million. Okay, how are you going to get there? What's the thing that's going to get you there in terms of product, service, or whatever it might be? It's this. Okay. So then we go, right, is that appropriate to sell en masse through a webinar? Is that a vehicle that can help you move that product on scale? So you have to start with your commercials. I know it's boring to start with commercials and numbers, but you've got to start with, is this contributing job? Because if you're just going to put together a webinar for, I hope we get some clients, or I hope we get more people coming to our business, it's going to be expensive. It's going to consume loads of energy. It's going to turn you off this form of communication, which is super valuable. So you want to lower your expectations in terms of sales, practice it, but fine tune what's the point of it? What is the main point? And then from that, you can go, okay, our main point is to sell this widget, which solves this problem. So you start with the problem, then you start with the solution. And then really important, it is important to have a backstory as well. It's important to tell your audience, like explain to them why they should listen to you. What is it that you've been through or that you understand that empathizes and resonates with them? And this is where it's really important to show your, I suppose, vulnerabilities. I don't like saying that because I don't want you to become like a
imperfections,
victim.
maybe.
Yeah, imperfections. Yeah, that's probably a better term. So and show them how you screwed up, right? Listen, when I first started doing this, I had a disaster, or I invested 100 grand into this and I lost the lot and I had to find a way of screwing. Just they've all been through that. So instead of the Instagram standing in front of a sports car in front of the Burj Khalifa with some sunglasses on texting in your white chinos scenario, which most people know is BS, tell them the reality of what you've been through. And that's why your whatever it is better, because it's come from pain. It's been forged in the fires. And so it's more effective. And by the way, here's some of the results that it's got for other people that are like you in your scenario. And these basic principles of that communication will convince people, if you're legit, to come on board with you.
I really like that in terms of like the crux of the content, right? And then maybe how to create a headline and a bit of a teaser sort of promotional piece, right? What I noticed next is the logistics of the event itself. So let's just say it's a webinar digital. You need to have a certain platform that can host a lot of people at the same time. Some
Which
of
isn't
them
cheap. It's not cheap, actually.
No.
It can get expensive, yeah.
Like we use Teams because they already had an enterprise sort of, Teams because it's a reasonably large organization. Some other people use Zoom, but you have to upgrade, right, for a lot of these sort of like larger events. And some of the times they give extra features like a Q&A sort of handhold thing, some additional features that you need to host an event kind of thing, right? What do you recommend for any of this if people...
Yeah, a lot on
tools.
I mean, I haven't got any link for an affiliate kickback or anything, but a lot on Webinar Jam. Webinar Jam's solid. It's been around the block a long time. Zoom's really improved what they do for these kind of events as well. But I think this is the thing. It's okay to start. I mean, even in the office, it's okay to do a dummy run for 20, 30 people for free on a platform just to get your logistics right, just to get your automations
even
right.
Like LinkedIn Live, like does a live streaming thing. Just do that and invite some people.
Just do that. And the thing is, if people people are going to, don't ask for feedback. Somebody, like early on in my business life, somebody said, don't ask for feedback because you're going to hear shit you don't want to hear, right? That's what's going to happen. But I think just doing it helps, and it gets you over the fear and it gets you over the hurdles before you decide to try and put an event for 3,000 people, which is very difficult. And just understand the basics. Like, for example, let's say you bring traffic. We'll talk about how to bring traffic soon, but you bring traffic to your landing page where you've got your video sales letter and you're communicating, and they click to book. What happens next? If they've booked 30 days out, and you're going to send them one email an hour before, that's not going to get them to the event. So what are you doing to keep adding value in that journey that's going to increase their likelihood of showing up, but also an appetite to do business with you? And this is all things that you need to work out. I talk to people about retention, but retention starts with the first engagement. If you want to retain a client, it starts with the first engagement. So it's a full process all the way through.
Okay.
So the automation is important.
Okay, so we've got maybe sort of our content at a basic level. We've practiced it. We're now decided on some sort of webinar platform. I'm not going to talk about tools. Everyone likes to talk about tools, but like it's not that hard. Like go out there and just buy one, whatever, and start using it. But people that are already on a system, most people do have Zoom installed because pandemic sort of era. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people have, if they're sort of a large or medium-sized business, will have Microsoft systems or Teams already installed on their computer. So like it just lowers the barriers to entry, I find. So go with something that's familiar, unless there's another one that's really frictionless. And then landing page, yeah. So really important, you need to have some sort of thing that sells the event. Could be your website or a LinkedIn page or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But you need to have some sort of like sample of it via a video. Is that what you're recommending?
Just using a website or something like that is problematic. That's why funnels are so important, because it's intentionally there to communicate that very specific message. And so if you're advertising that you sell oranges, let's say, for example, and you send them to your greengrocer website, you're going to lose that client. So if you're advertising that you sell oranges, you need to sell them to a VSL that's talking about oranges, and keep that continuity there. That's really, really important. So even if you have got a website and you've got loads of additional content, social media, whatever else, and you're doing lives, that's all well and good. But whatever your advertising message, and that could be through paid ads, or it could be through advertisements or SEO, or if you've got a big LinkedIn following, whatever it might be, or your email list. But whatever your core message is, if you say I'm selling oranges, you better send them to something that when they land there, it's orange and there's a piece of fruit on it, because they go, okay, this makes sense now. But you see it all the time where people say something here and they land on this generic homepage or random, they're gone. They're gone, right? You need to keep them focused, and you need to hook them quickly in that first piece of communication on the video. Super, super important.
And obviously, the headline sort of matches up with the headline that you're promoting. The key points are there.
Continuity.
Yeah,
It's really, it's like a lot of this stuff is basic. It is hard to craft that headline, and and you have to try not to copy multi-million-dollar homeless man explains how
Like
a pair
a 10-word headline. Just like keep it simple. Like literally, what are they saying in journalism is like max? It's like 6 to 8 words maximum for a headline. You know what I mean? And I find these people go this and that in the context of XYZ industry and blah 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 blah, and it's just like, what is it again? I don't even know. Just say AI. People will come anyway.
There's a balance. There is a balance there.
Yeah.
And like I've got some great people that I work with who really craft the content. I mean, it'll take somebody like top level creators of this content, of a video sales letter, it'll take them a good couple of weeks of real graft to forge something that communicates really well, because they're always repeating it back, talking it back, listening to it back, and trying to make sure that they get the message nailed.
I think a lot of people underestimate the craft of that. They just give it to some lackey and then they sort of just word match some stuff together. It's like super wordy. It makes sense technically, but then like it loses the value of the communication. I find is not as effective when you're selling it. So give it to a good copywriter or something, right?
Give it to a good copywriter, but again, record it yourself to camera, listen to it on audio, and assimilate what you're saying. You want to be able, you remember the old days, you say like, what's your elevator pitch and that kind of thing. But it is like that. You really need to get good at nailing what it is what solution you provide to your audience, so that they can get it right away.
I did this recently. It was like 3 companies. So we had a representative from all 3 companies, within the sort of topic, but coming from different angles that the attendee would be familiar with. So, there's the software provider, there was the implementation partner, and then we were coming in a bit more of a sort of governance kind of level, like, or a starting point kind of level, get your shit in order first, right? Kind of thing. And then go to the implementation person. That person talks about sort of like the ins and outs of doing this. And then the last one was the software provider giving a bit of a tactical demo. So we sort of stepped down. And what I found was very interesting is that we had to come together to practice, and we practiced at least 3 times. We practiced it ourselves, like each party independently, and then we came together 3 times to practice it and sort of just run through. And doing that made it so much better, infinitely better when we went to do it, because everyone was kind of relaxed. It was, definitely, we stuck within, I think, 2 minutes variation of how long we said it would be. Because, those webinars you go into and it's like 40 minutes and it's like an hour 30 before they get to anything interesting. You're like, oh my God, I've got to go to lunch or whatever. So like timing's super important. And if we didn't do that practice, like, not good.
Yeah, I mean, even school plays, right? They meet and they practice and they rehearse, and they sometimes don't end up the greatest piece of theatre you've ever seen. But so, if you don't rehearse and don't practice, you might just get lucky and nail it. But it's really difficult. You've got to be really experienced to be able to do that. So practice is important. Making sure that you're just planned out of enough time. Give yourself a false deadline to run it like mock first. and go through that process so that when it comes to the hour, comes to the day, you're at least going to maximize your opportunity with that event for sure.
And one thing that I just want to mention as well, you know how the technical thing, whatever platform you're using, you have to be familiar with it. So I found it was really useful for us to just troubleshoot the technical things, because you know when you're on a webinar, it's nothing worse that they're supposed to go, oh, how do we mute everybody and blah blah blah. And it's just like a really bad kind of like vibe. Like, have you done this before? Whereas we did that and we figured out, oh crap, we don't know how to use this program, and then we kind of figured it out. And then on the day we assigned someone as the technical kind of lead, because you know one person is the main host, and then the other two parties in this case were kind of joining in as admins, but there was an employee from our company who was a technical kind of manager sitting right next to us as the presenters. So that if anything had to happen, bang, they were doing it. You know what I mean? Because so we could present and focus on presenting, and everything else was managed. And it was like super slick. But I just remember if we hadn't practiced, we would have been fumbling around on the day for sure.
Huge. I went on somebody else's webinar a few weeks back, and they're a big entity. And the guy came on, and he was going, "Oh, how do I share my screen? How do I share my slides?"
Yes.
And even though, like, I was kind of like, "Yeah, okay, I get it," but I'm like, "Come on, there's hundreds and hundreds of people in this room, and you just it's
Or
bad
they
news."
want to play a video. Because this is a bit technical. They want to play a video or something in the slide deck or whatever, and then the audio doesn't work because it has to have the permissions from whatever. And it's like things like that. Very basic things. You need to.
If you've ever done SaaS or any presentations like that, like you have to take the assumption that it's not going to work for whatever reason on the presentation.
Yeah.
So just have like pre-recorded or screen slides or whatever else. And in fact, we've had guests where we've asked them to record their piece before, just in case for whatever reason they can't make it onto the live event.
Oh, and you can just play the pre-recording.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
And so there's all sorts of things you can do like that, where actually a lot of like, even like something like ClickFunnels, they have 3-day challenges, and there's a lot of that stuff that's probably just all pre-recorded and put together and have an MC on the day, so it looks live and active, but actually you've got the assets already recorded in the background. And that happens a lot, especially with guests. I could easily be talking and go, but don't listen to me, let's listen to Chris now, and just play a video of Chris, and he can go, thanks Nath, appreciate that, hi everyone, but it's all pre-recorded, right? So
And that's what you want to do when you want to scale it after the first time, I'm guessing, right?
So this is it, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about your event as a series of 6, which is a good thing to think about. So you go, okay, so after you've done that's not including your dummy one that I would recommend you do in-house. But once you've like gone through all the technical bits and checking how to mute people, play a video, all that kind of stuff, you run a survey. You then do, okay, we're going to do a series of 6. And so the business plan for that webinar or that funnel or that event or that challenge or whatever you're calling it is a series of 6 events. And you're looking at how you can tweak and improve over that period. But as you go along, they become less work. You put your energy out better. You can automate a lot more. You can probably pre-record some stuff. And you'll notice, and if you treat it like that, by the end of that 6th event, you're going to really understand how valuable this is in your business, like super valuable. This is the best way for you to scale. Never mind trying to run ads to get to a landing page for people to self-register and onboard themselves and all that kind of stuff. That does happen. But if you're a small business, this is the best way to do it. 100%.
Okay, so it could be the same topic 6 times. Doesn't have to be different topics.
I would definitely do that. Like definitely, you can tweak it. You can, but I would definitely do that because you message out to your audience, and I don't know. Let's say you got 300 people coming to your first webinar, which would be super great, and you go, okay, I'm going to estimate, I'm going to convert. I would say 20%, but let's say 10%. So, okay, that's 30 people. So that 30 people are going to spend X amount on average for my program. Where does that leave me? Oh, that breaks me even. Maybe that breaks you even. And you go, okay, that's a good result. That's a positive result for you because you've now got a whole new skill set, a whole new asset in your business that's costing you 0 in terms of money. And next time you haven't got to go through all that learning curve. But now you've basically created your own TV channel, and you can utilize that and you can do it again and again and again until, as some old marketing gurus of mine said, just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until it doesn't pay anymore.
It's funny. They say that marketers get bored of their own content way before the customers do. Yeah. So
there's
repetition.
a book actually, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's a political strategy book, and it says tell them, then tell them again, then tell them
and
again,
again,
then
and
tell them
again,
again.
and
But
again.
it's about 7 pages just saying, tell them again. And then
Yeah,
when you think they've heard it enough, tell them again. And then when you've had enough, tell them again,
yeah,
tell
yeah.
them again.
I'll notice on social media as well. I made the mistake. I'm like, oh, I need a new piece of content or a new angle. I'm like, no, 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 just recycle the stuff. I do this all
No
the
one's
time. Just
seen it.
recycle last
No
year's
one's
stuff
seen it.
again and again
No
and
one's
again and
seen
again. Yeah, yeah. No one sees
it.
it, so it's
Yeah,
like
no
it's
one's
pretty
seen it.
funny.
And even if they have seen it, they took, you said it before, they took like one
They
or
want
two
to hear it
lines.
again. If they agree with it, they want to hear it again. Maybe in a slightly different tweak or angle,
Yeah.
but like,
Have you
yeah,
ever
the
watched a
same.
good film? Have you watched a good film more than once? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Good
Yeah,
films. So
right. So you listen to music multiple times that you like, right?
okay, so we've got, just to backtrack a bit, we've got a topic now. We've done our practice. We've got a landing page with a VSL. We've the next thing I think a lot of people have trouble with is getting people there. I would say it's probably the biggest problem, especially when you're first starting out, because you might have a newsletter list. In this case, with this other client, they didn't have anything and no newsletter
Yeah.
list. I had to
Yeah.
like extract from the CRM list of customers that were already customers to sort of seed the newsletter sort of infrastructure to then invite them out for the first time. We got the CSMs or sort of account managers to call them as well and personally invite them
There you
who
go.
they would normally deal with as well, and sort of become from a generic sort of, inquiries at a domain address. And then I also layered on some LinkedIn ads to like an ad which went to the landing page as well, targeting similar sort of target market. But what would you recommend for this? This is probably the hardest bit.
Yeah, so the cold traffic bringing to an event, it's really important that you understand how something like Meta works. So even though I'm not a media buyer, like my business partners are, and understand the need to be nuanced and be gentle, because Meta and platforms like that, Google, they want to spend your money, right? That's what they want to do. And so they'll lull you into this false sense of security in the early days, especially with low level money, and they'll get you really good results because they'll serve it to an audience that they believe is going to have a higher propensity to convert, to
Mhm.
encourage you to spend more money. I mean, that cynical? Probably not.
No, no, no. It's
They're
exactly how it works. It's just an incentive. So their incentive is to get as much money out of you as it can. And there's a honeymoon period sort of thing where they've got to
there you
get you
go.
hooked, and then it dilutes over time. It's very
There
predictable.
you go. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very predictable. So you've got to be prepared to have lots of different media and ads to try. And I think also when you're trying ads, like you just said it there, people are like, I don't want to put that on an ad because if people see it, yeah, but nobody will see it. And of the people that do see it, this is part of the testing process.
Mm.
So I think ads are okay to be radical. So let's go back to the orange reference before. You could just hold an orange up and go, this is like a fresh orange. Come and join my orange webinar. Or you could just squeeze an orange over your head. You could eat an orange and pull your face. You can try all these different things because some of them are going to resonate with different people, and you'll get an outlier in your ads where you can shut down your spend on the ads that aren't performing and just burning cash and move it and orientate towards this one until that will eventually burn out. And this is where people get it wrong, you see. So anybody can run Meta ads, anyone can run Google ads, but anyone can play chess, right? But
Mm.
there's only a few grandmasters in the world.
Mm.
And so I'm not saying you go out and hire the most expensive media buyer in the world because that's probably not the best person either. But what you really want is a media buyer. Like, for example, my business partners, we've turned down loads of people that have come to us to buy media. We've gone, we just can't see how we can make that work. They're good people to work with. Like,
Mm.
they're
Mm.
good people to say, I think you're going to have to spend 5,000 on testing in the first week. But just explain to you that it's not just to turn on your ads and spend your money because that is statistically not going to work. Have a good run up to your event, have a good 30-day run up, use your first sort of 4 or 5 days just for testing and gathering event information. And then look for any outliers in your ads or anything that's resonating and put money towards that. Now, the other thing that people will tell you is, oh yeah, if you just break even, that's good. And I just said it earlier. Yes, that is true. If you break even on getting people to your event, that is good. But there's nothing wrong with orientating around trying to make a little bit of profit if you're selling tickets from getting to the event, or
Mm.
trying to make sure that you're always testing and pushing what return you can get on your ad spend.
Yeah, this is an
So
interesting thing. Where the commitment consistency principle. So if you offer like, hey, this event is free, I find you'll get a lot of people registering, but you'll probably get a 60% no-show on the day because there's no outlay, there's no friction involved, commitment from the attendee,
yeah,
right? Whereas if you go, hey, here's some nominal kind of friction to attend, or whether it's, monetary or something else, then I find people are way more committed and will follow through and actually attend on the day. So it's a bit
100%.
counterintuitive.
I wouldn't do free webinars, to be honest. I
Okay.
wouldn't do free events. I personally, I wouldn't recommend that. So then if somebody would go, well, what am I going to charge somebody
Mm,
for this? Okay, there's alternative ways of doing this. So you could partner up with, I don't know, let's say you're a business and you've got an insurance broker, nothing to do with you at all, right? Nothing, you sell oranges, but you've got an insurance broker and you go to that insurance broker, listen, I'm running this event. It's not so much a sponsor, but is there any chance you can give somebody like 30% off their insurance if they come in this event? And so you can use that as an incentivization, but then you can look at the charge. So if you can get 200 quid worth of by proxy value in your event, you can say there's a £20 charge, but we give you on the day, hands down, $200 worth of cash value
mm.
whilst we're talking to you about the oranges. And so you've just got to make sure it's back to the commercials. It's about understanding charging people creates friction. Okay. Why would they pay? Well, you've got to give them value. You have to give them value. Otherwise, so why bring them to a free event if you're not going to give them value? So give them tons of value, make it worth them paying, and use that money for the event to pump back into your ads
Yep. Yep.
so that the event starts working. It fuels itself literally like that.
Okay, we were talking about value. This is a really good segue into inducements, or I would call like magnets or lead magnets for the event itself. So maybe one of the magnets is a famous speaker or someone. This happens at events all the time. They get to run a real event. The way it works is it's kind of like a pay-per-play. You get kind of some sponsors on board, and you give them a speaking gig, one of the sponsors, right? All conferences are like this. But then you mix it with some other speakers. You generally go really big on one or two or three kind of semi-famous or famous sort of headline speakers who act as a lead magnet for then everybody else. And then the sponsors do their speech thing, but no one really likes it because they're just trying to sell people the whole time. And then you have some booths and stuff, and that's kind of how you fund the event. So you use the sponsor money to then pay for the big speaker, right? And then ticket sales and whatever else. So for a webinar, what are some big lead magnets that will entice people to come? Like, do you have a famous speaker? Do you give them free food or like catering or something, that you ship out to their places, or how does it work?
Yeah. So if you're talking to an audience that have got scurvy, for example, let's go back into medieval times, but if you're talking to an audience that got scurvy, telling them you've got oranges is going to be enough because it's going to solve their problem, their deficiency, right? I don't need to bring Captain Cook along. I mean, he might help, he might give it some by proxy credibility, but I don't need to pay Captain Cook to come and talk at this event because these people are in terrible pain, probably going to die, and I've got the solution for it. So that comes back to the original position. Yeah, you can get all these other people in, you can go and pay 10 grand for a keynote speaker and all that. They're probably not going to help you sell more of your stuff. People are going to end up coming to see them off the back of all your hard work. So you're better off having a smaller audience that are more targeted with the problem that you've highlighted and empathize with them and your solution than dragging thousands and thousands and thousands of people in because somebody else is there. So I would say in the early days, for sure, focus on the end result, the conversion, focus on that commercial piece that I said at the start, rather than just trying to create an event and go, oh, we got 10,000 people to this event. Okay, what happened? Well, I didn't make any money, but we had this talker and this talker and this, okay.
Yeah, I think why they do that is because they see that's what the big corporate companies do, because that's exactly the playbook that they use. But they're in a different time and place, and it's more of a brand sort of maintenance thing because the trust and the sales are already there, right? So I think the mistake the small businesses make is they try to emulate that in the different context, and they go, "Hey, why didn't it work?"
Yeah, and there's no need, right? You could be Susan from down the road with your own bridal shop. It's okay. You can run some meta ads and you can go, like, I'm like totally honest about when you come down for a fitting. We talk about everything you want, but I'm going to be pushed back a little bit on what I think looks better for you. Come down and see me, have a cup of tea and you can just be that authentic with it and invite people. See, that's the other thing as well. Webinars, people are always thinking you've got to sell some kind of coaching product or knowledge product or something like that. You don't. You could be a real world bricks and mortar business and you can do a presentation, and somebody that's 15 miles away that might not come to your bridal shop, they come on your webinar because it's easy to target them through ads, and they go, actually, it's probably worth me going down there a little bit because she sounded like she knew what she was talking about. Yeah. And so you can drive traffic to your real world business as well. It's not just coaching. It's not just B2B. Those kind of products. It's everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, so we mentioned sort of ads, so get a good ad person to get, expand beyond your own media
Get
kind
a
of list or whatever,
media
right?
buyer. Get a media buyer that's going to push back
Yeah.
on you. Get a media buyer that's going to tell you some realities. Don't just because they're telling you things you don't like, it doesn't mean that they're not the right. But in fact, they're probably the right person if they're pushing back a little
Yeah.
bit. And if they say like, "I want to keep your spend down. I don't want to escalate it too quickly. I want to review it on a day-to-day basis." All that kind of stuff. You want to make sure they're doing that.
Yeah. Hey, one of the other things that we used for this other one that I did was that we sort of cross-pollinated, I call it the audiences. So the reason for having three different companies talking about the same sort of topic from different angles was that we could sort of leverage each other's audience and sort of combine forces and reduce the risk, but also amplify the potential attendee list. What happened, funnily enough, was that the two others didn't really do anything, so it was all on us. But that was the plan anyway. So it's
Yeah.
not always like you have to rely on ads, but if you don't have a big list or you don't have partners, you probably have to, right?
Well,
Are there any
yes,
other
but
hacks
then
though?
the other thing that you mentioned that I don't know if anybody heard was you can pick up the phone as well, right? You can call people. I know you don't want to do that,
Or
but
DM
you
them
can
at
do
the very
that.
least on LinkedIn or something.
Or DM them. I mean, just it's free, right? And you can use something like ManyChat, or there's tons and tons of automation out there that can DM. And don't do like NAF DMs, just do like real, credible, authentic. But you can mass communicate for free or like $27 a month using a piece of software
Hmm.
to all your social media contacts, be that on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be. And guess what else you can do? You can ask them to recommend people or refer people or share it. Just ask them to share it. Like, do me a favor. I'm
Yeah.
running my first webinar. Ping it out to everyone because I want to change the world.
So that was one of my things is like I think underused technique is like a lot of people want to attend something, but they know a colleague. So I'm like, have it somewhere in your copy, like, hey, bring a friend as well and sort of make this interesting
It's
kind of thing,
fine.
and then discuss
Yeah.
afterwards. You've just doubled your attendee list.
Easy, right? The other thing that works really well for people
Yeah.
is quizzes or scorecards or assessments. That's a
Like
real good
beforehand
way.
or afterhand
Yeah.
or both.
Well, both, but before it's really good. Even if it's like a bit of friction, like you said tonight, let me check if this is relevant for you. You
Yeah.
know, where are you in terms of your like margin performance? Where are you in terms of your like audience? Whatever questions you're going to ask, and then you can say to them, this event is probably going to solve 70% of your problems.
I also use it. So we're talking about pre-communication just to get that
Yeah.
commitment before the event. I also
Yeah.
use what question do you have that you really want answered? You know what I mean? Ahead of
Yeah.
time, so that you get the commitment. But then also you feed that into the Q&A. So instead of going Q&A, does anyone have any questions? And like no one responds, you go, hey Cindy, you asked a question about this. I'm sure some other people on the line have a question about this as well. Here's what we thought about it, and this is probably the best answer we can provide. Blah 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 blah. And then you have a really good Q&A session, I find. But a lot of people don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, come here and listen to me tell you what I'm all about and what I've
Yeah,
got right. But
yeah,
what you've got to remember is so there's some principles here. Everything that you are talking about or doing and everything your audience wants falls into three categories, right? Which is health, wealth, or relationships. And they're either moving towards more wealth or away from poverty, or it's either towards or away from health, wealth, or relationships, something orientated in that. And if you once you get that in your head and start understanding what humans need and want, it's going to help you refine your communication, and that will then allow you to go through everything we talked about: the commercials, the message, the ads, bring in the audience. And then when they come there, it's better to have 30 people that are going to convert than to have 30,000 that are
yeah.
not going to buy a thing.
How do you make the event good? Apart from energy, I have been to an event, and I think this is very much unused or underutilized, is the music. So when people are sort of coming in, you've got a bit of a lobby sort of experience, and generally people wait around 5-10 minutes for everyone to sort of connect because a lot of people are late for meetings, whatever. And I found this other, they're community managers, so they're pretty adept at this because they run a lot of events. But what was really cool is they play some really funky music and a kind of like a bit of a party vibe. But like you just sort of entered not a club, but like a bar, and everybody's sort of catching up and sort of emulated that vibe. And then, started talking casually about how are you? Oh, hey, this
Yeah.
person's just come online. Hey, what's happening with you? And blah, 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 blah. Other sort of like tactics that you use like that, that can really help or?
I think we do. We've done some behind the scenes stuff, not like bloopers, but like
Yeah.
just casual conversations where people can watch that how the event was put together.
Yeah.
And a really good one actually was where we showed how we got people to the event, so what we spent, what we paid when we were putting the ads together. This one was horrendous. Look at this ad that didn't work. And if you've seen this ad, that's what got you there. So explaining to them the journey of how you got there adds value to the event, because when they can see you've done work to put it together as well, it really resonates with them, and they go, okay, these people have put something, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm here now, and they're going to give me some value. So I think showing behind the scenes reality and all that kind of stuff, it massively.
Like,
The trouble with music is, what music are we playing?
yeah.
If we,
It's
what
like
you
Kenny
love,
G
somebody
sort
else
of like lobby elevator music, or is there something a bit funky? So in this case,
hates.
it's a good question because everyone likes different things. But in this case, they were kind of a bit more of a younger sort of, community manager, social media sort of, in the mid-20s, sort of early 30s, a tech vibe. So they were playing kind of like funky sort of electro, sort of music, and it
Yeah,
kind of worked for that group. But
yeah.
yeah,
If you know your audience before the event, you can play questions to them as well. So
yeah,
you can challenge an audience, and you could say to an audience, like, let's say, for example, I was doing an SME gig or something like that. I could say to them, do you know that the average life of an SME has dropped by 20% since the year 2000, and it's shrinking all the time, which gives you less chance to achieve your goals. Now, if I've got an event that I'm selling in something that can accelerate their goals,
mm,
in that pre-event bit where I'm challenging them with maybe some scary information, but it's legit and I back it up, it can help prep them for the event as well.
yeah. One other question was, we talk about attendees and no shows, right? Especially if it's free. A lot of the time they go, and this is the thing that I try not to do, is that they go, oh, well, why would I attend when I can just watch the recording at a convenient time to me, right? What would you say about that? Should we record and post it afterwards? Or should you only sort of post a recording that's redacted? Or what's your advice on that?
I think I would include it in the paid version. You know,
Okay,
I think
okay.
look, scarcity is important, right? We know that scarcity is
Yeah,
important. If people come at an event and then they think they can just get a rewatch, they're not going to watch it and concentrate. So I would just say there is no recording of it, because we do it live, and it depends what's happening and times change. And so the next event's on this day. Give them a chance to come to the next event, but go, you missed out on this, and this for sure. But I wouldn't. I don't see the point in sending them a freebie.
no, either way. I think it's just like cannibalizing sort of the whole
I
value
think
of
also
them.
you're doing work. You're doing work. I think this is another thing that business owners need to. We all know it, but we don't get paid enough for what we
Yeah.
do. That's for sure. We need to have more confidence in being able to charge and more value in ourselves. And I think one of the ways you do that is by deeply understanding that you're giving something that's of great value to people, and that people should pay for it. It's fine.
Hey, another thing
No,
that I just came across, because this was for lawyers, right? Is that I noticed there's like CPD, or professional development points, that they have to upkeep, and that was a big selling point, and that's something we missed in the first one because I didn't know you could do it. So very interesting. If they don't attend, they don't get the points. So we use that as a bit of a hook as well.
really good. That's really good. So let's take the hospitality. So let's say I was trying to sell to caterers or restaurants or something like that. One of the things that would be super valuable is say, oh, by the way, when you come on, that you can get all your food safety training certification through one of our suppliers, and they'll do that free for you for 6 months. So by proxy, they need that compliancy anyway. They've got to come through and do that anyway. And so they're going, okay, well, I might as well come and do that. And then also you can get, like I said, one of your suppliers to challenge their prices and bring and increase their margin. These are just benefits that you do no work on at all, but they need, and then you can move in and sell. And it gives you more trust by proxy as well, because you're adding more value for them.
Yeah, and understanding sort of the industry they're coming from. People ask me, when should we have it? It's a really interesting question. What's your answer to that?
So we've done 5-day challenges, which even when we were doing them, and I've presented almost all of that in some cases. In fact, there was one time when we're in the Middle East, and for some reason the laptop I was using, it wasn't mine, but it decided to just reset itself. You talk about being prepared for events, and the laptop just turned off and reset itself. And I got my iPhone, logged in on my own, and I think we had about 800 people on the webinar or something like that. And it was a 5-day challenge, but I just started my phone again. But because I'm quite comfortable with that, you make a joke of it and you go, look, I just approved, this is live. That laptop's just crashed and I'm now on my phone. So I think when you're going through the event and the different stages of communicating to your audience, it's about you being confident in your product, your solution, and your offering. That's what's most important. We did the 5-day events, then we've
Yeah.
reduced them down to 3-day events, and now we're down to 1-day, 6-hour events. And we're using and we're getting sort of similar results. And Monday is a great day for it. Monday's a great day for it.
What, afternoon? Not in the morning when people have their inboxes full, right?
Yeah, so in the afternoon, really, when they've got rid of all that early. Now, communication-wise, Tuesday is the best day to communicate. It's a really powerful day to communicate. But I think that show up on a Monday afternoon because they've got it in their head and they're ready. We've had good show up rates and we've had good consumption and good conversion on it.
So they're not
I
fatigued
wouldn't
by the end of the week or like planning for
forget
social events or whatever.
Fridays.
Yeah.
Forget nobody's coming on a Friday. Like nobody's coming on a Saturday. Forget those kind of days. But this is the start of a working week, and as long as it's massive value and going to provide me with a solution, they've done all the crap stuff in the morning, and dealt with
Yep.
all the horrible emails, and then you've got that afternoon to pitch into them and give them a solution and inspire them. And remember, you've got to inspire them. You're giving them. You're not just giving them a solution, but you have to energize them and give them
For the week.
some for the week, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you also, if you do it on a Monday, it gives you a chance to follow up effectively and make those sales and get those onboardings done that week.
Okay, so the last thing, this has been really, really good, but we've covered a lot of turf, is when you're building a business case, like I mentioned, this company hadn't done it for the first time. A lot of it goes to, how are we going to measure it or how are we going to justify the business case, even if we're doing a pilot for next time. So again, coming back to metrics, what would be the sort of big things that you hit on from a business perspective to then do another one and to maybe expand and go from there? Attendees, emails, caption.
Well, they need to know the average order value. So what's the average order or lifetime value? So somebody I was speaking to the other day, their average client value is 180 grand over 24 months. So that's a nice chunky value, right? So you get a few people in there, you're making big money. If your order value is like $20, you're probably never going to make it work. It's just not going to happen. If it's an entry $20 and then it's going to scale, that's different. So you need to know what that client is going to be worth to you, and you need to know how many of them clients would make up the number that is going to make it worthwhile for you more than anything else. Measuring things like number of attendees or number of engagements or number of emails sent or list build, I wouldn't do that as a small business. Like, money, right? Profit is sanity, and I would focus entirely on and also, let's say you've obviously got a mechanism, I would suspect anyway, as a business, that you're selling something already through a medium. So you measure it against that, right? Never mind measuring it against like these ethereal numbers, but measuring against what you're currently doing. And if you have a salesperson that's generating, I don't know, $10,000 a day, and you put a webinar on and you go, okay, what happened? How many people, what resource went into it? It generated $50,000. And you go, well, that's no good because he's generating 10,000 now. So we need to compare it to what we're doing already, know our numbers on how many sales we want to and need to make, and then base it on maybe a 5% conversion rate to begin with or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And go low level.
Is there anything that you want to talk about that we've kind of missed before I sort of like talk about you and your sales pitch or not?
Yeah. Really, really, really important. That the funnel, the webinar, anything, it doesn't matter. It's only one component of the whole thing. And you really need to get deep into understanding that, if you have in your head 16 points of valuable contact on average is what's going to get somebody converted, that's a good place to start, because you need to then map out and go, okay, I've got to be committed to this. And you know what it's like. You don't walk up to a woman or your future partner and tap them on the shoulder in the street and go, do you want to get married? You have to date them a little bit, and you have to like try and get. Customers are the same, right? They need to learn to trust you. They need to learn to like you. They need to learn to know you. So just be prepared to be in for the long haul, and don't just think that the funnel or any sales thing is going to be a silver bullet, because it's not, because there aren't any silver bullets out there. It's a whole process and a whole journey.
True. Okay, perfect. And so coming back to you, you told us a bit about your history, but if people are interested in what we're talking about today, over to you. What do you do? What do you sell?
Yeah. So exactly what we've been talking about here. We act in the background, actually. So we say we currently recruit talent and work with talent, but whatever it is your business does, the number one thing that we're looking to do is create an asset for you that will automate lead customer client generation for you. That's the principles of this. The first one, obviously, we have to build stuff and make stuff and automate stuff, but we then hand over that asset to you with a full CRM and marketing system that you can then press copy and duplicate and alter and alter and alter. So effectively, like if you had a real retail shop and you were spending 150 grand to fit it out and you came to us and you built this asset for 25 grand, you can then duplicate that as many times as you want.
Great.
But what we do is build all of that for you so that you can bring in client upon client upon client forever, really. That's what we do.
Great. Okay. And if people want to get in contact with you, your first name's Nathan. Your last name is
Nathan
Siekierski.
Siekierski. But yeah, come to me. Just come to me and find me on LinkedIn. It's the best way. We operate in the background, really. We don't. I know this is like people don't want to hear this necessarily, but we don't have to or do any. We get too many referrals of big people and connections, and so. But if you message me directly, we can just have a little bit of a chat, and then we can jump on a call and just talk like this.
Okay, but the
That's
minimums we'll be talking like 10,000 sort of upwards.
minimum's 10 grand.
Yeah.
Minimum for an appointment magnet, something that's just going to take people to a self-generated appointment, 10K, and then up to whatever's going to make sense for you.
And that's in pounds, yeah.
That's pounds.
Yes,
Good old-fashioned English sterling pounds. Yeah. So whatever
Not
the
Pacific pesos, as we call our dollar.
no, £10,000. That's our minimum ticket.
That's great. Well, thanks for staying up late tonight, and Nathan, really appreciate it. And hopefully, if people are looking to do events or webinars or sort of do it properly to get actual sales revenue out of it, as opposed to just some optics thing and getting attendees, I think that was a really good conversation. They should reach out to you if they're interested. So thanks for your time.
Cool. Yeah, good luck, everyone. It's a roller coaster, right? But good luck.